Welcome back to The Naked Connection. This is the show that supports driven men to reach sexual mastery and build deep connections. What's up, you guys? It's Kirsten. And before we get any further, please take a moment and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss a single episode. Today, we are diving into a topic that I know hits close to home for many of you. That moment when the woman in your life doesn't seem interested in sex with you. And before we get into this, I want to be very clear. This is not about blame or shame. This is about understanding the science behind female sexuality so that you can create the conditions where desire can actually flourish. Because here is what I have learned from all of my research and years in working with individuals in sex and relationships. When a woman doesn't want sex, there is almost always a biological or a psychological reason. And guys, once you understand these reasons, you will have the power to actually do something about it. So today, we are going to break down 5 science-backed reasons why your woman might not be interested in sex, and most importantly, what you can do about it. So you guys, let's get some. All right, you guys, the NBA playoffs are here, and while teams are battling it out on the court, there's another important battle every man should be ready for. Taking care of your health down there. I'm excited to share Manscaped's TCS Ball Hero Bundle with you. This isn't just about looking good naked, although trust me, your girl will notice the difference. This limited edition bundle includes the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra and a special purple design that supports testicular cancer awareness, plus their Boxers 2.0 with the jewel pouch that actually keeps everything cool and comfortable. Here's what I love about the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Their skin-safe technology helps reduce nicks and cuts. It's waterproof, so you can use it in the shower, and the battery lasts 60 minutes. No more dying mid-groom, you guys. Now here's the real talk. Testicular cancer is the most common cancer in men ages 13 to 55, but with early detection today, there's a 99% survival rate. So while you're catching every buzzer beater, make sure you're checking yourself too, because your sexual health and overall health go hand in hand. Get the TCS Ball Hero Bundle today and use code NAKED15 for 15% off. Make sure your grooming game is as sharp as your basketball IQ. This limited edition won't last long. So again, visit manscaped.com and use code NAKED15 for 15% off. With that, let's get back to this week's episode. So reason number 1, you are not prioritizing her pleasure. Let's start with something that might be a little bit uncomfortable to hear, but is truly crucial to this conversation. Women are way less likely to orgasm from sex than men. And when sex consistently leaves her unsatisfied, her brain is going to start to avoid it. Here's the reality. Only about 18 to 20% of women can orgasm from penetration alone. Yet most of the time, everyone focuses sex entirely on penetration. The clitoris has over 8,000 nerve endings, which is twice as many as your incredible penis does. But the clitoris is often ignored or barely touched, and if it's touched, it's often not in the right way or the way that is desirable for her. So think about it this way. If every time you had sex, you didn't have an orgasm and it was just okay or maybe even disappointing, maybe your penis wasn't engaged with or touched in a way that you find really desirable and pleasurable, how long would you keep wanting to do it? Sitting in that experience, that might be what is happening for her. You see, when sex consistently leaves her unsatisfied, her brain is literally going to start to associate sexual activity with disappointment rather than pleasure. And here's something that has the capacity to blow your mind. When women rarely or never orgasm, they lose sexual desire over time. It creates this really terrible cycle where bad sex leads to less desire, which leads to less sex, which leads to even worse sex. So you find yourself in this tornado and you're thinking to yourself, I need to get out of here. There's also the pain factor. About 30% of women experience pain during sex at some point, often because there wasn't enough foreplay, maybe they weren't fully aroused enough, or there wasn't enough lubrication. So when sex is painful or it hurts, her body is learning to avoid sexual situations entirely. If something is really painful, you're probably not going to want to do it. And I just want to leave a caveat here that there are actual sexual conditions that women can seek medical support for if they do experience a high amount of pain during intercourse. So dropping that note here, seek medical support if this is something that is happening to you as a woman, or if you're noticing that it might be happening for your partner, letting her know. Now, here's the good news. When women's pleasure is actually prioritized, both partners are going to report higher satisfaction. This is evidence from scientific studies, you guys. And the problem is that oftentimes men are going to approach sex like it is a race to your finish line of orgasm. And that can sometimes lead to less satisfaction for your partner. So what can you do here? This comes down to shifting your focus and making her pleasure, especially during foreplay, a priority. And I have a couple of episodes that are specific to foreplay and how to make it fun, not only for her, but also for you. So be sure to check those out. And also, you want to learn about the clitoris and how to stimulate it really effectively. So you want to make sure that she is fully aroused before any penetration is unfolding. And this might mean 20 minutes of foreplay, not just 3. Most importantly here, ask her what feels good. When you're in this experience of engaging in foreplay, of perhaps going down on her or fingering her or rubbing her clit or playing with her breasts or kissing her or touching her in all of these erotic zones, ask her how it's feeling. Actually listen for her answers, not just from the words that she's saying, but listening with how her body is responding so that you know what to do next, what to do more of, or maybe what to do less of. The more aroused your woman becomes, the more likely she is to want to keep having sex with you. The second reason she might not want to have sex with you comes down to not feeling emotionally safe enough. Here is something that I think is really important to understand, and it's really going to help you have more sex and have more meaningful, wild sex. A woman really, really often needs to feel emotionally safe before she can become physically aroused. This isn't just like some touchy-feely concept. It is how brains are often wired. When a woman feels emotionally unsafe in her relationship or unsafe in the connection, this means that she's probably more likely to be worried about being judged, about being criticized, about being emotionally hurt. Maybe she's worried that especially if this is really fresh, or maybe you're not even in a relationship yet, maybe there's this conscious or unconscious fear that if she has sex, you will leave, or that you won't want her anymore, and then that makes her feel unsafe in some kind of way. A woman's sexual desire really tanks, it plummets even if she is in love with you, but she still doesn't feel fully safe. So think about betrayal. Any form of betrayal, whether it's cheating, lying, broken promises, these can create what's basically sexual aversion. If a woman is feeling betrayed, sex really requires a level of vulnerability, and that vulnerability can then feel dangerous when there's this betrayal looming in the background. And here's a big one. I think criticism and contempt is something that can come up a lot in a relationship. So if your relationship has come to be characterized by criticism, whether it's subtle stuff like eye rolls or sarcasm, or maybe comments where she feels stupid, her brain and her body are really going to struggle to shift into a relaxed state that is really necessary for sexual arousal. When she feels like she might be judged or criticized, her threat detection system is going to be on high alert. And when you're in that activated state, when your nervous system is really heightened and activated in that kind of a way, going to be much, much harder to slip into that relaxed state that is really, really potent for heightened sexual arousal. And I want to note here that some of this might not actually be your responsibility. Perhaps she has taken something that you've said and internalized it for herself as criticism, or perhaps she has some body image issues where she is afraid of being criticized or judged about her body, despite the fact that you deeply love and are totally into the way that she looks. So this is something that she needs to work on as well here, and recognizing that if there is emotional safety, that you are having a connection and a conversation to explore some of this, whether that means for her to explore it for herself or for you to work on these things together. Now, this video is for you because you are here, so we're going to look at what can you do in these experiences. If it does have something to do with criticism about her body image or just body image issues in general, which we all have to some degree, when she is worried about how she looks, she can't focus on how she feels. And knowing that that might be something there, perhaps invite in additional words of appreciation, of praise, letting her know what you really, truly love about her body. And I think something here that's really helpful to note is, instead of making broad statements like, you are so sexy, or you're so beautiful, or you're so hot, making it really specific and tailored to her. Maybe making mention of how much you love the color of her eyes and how there's like these intricacies in them or these freckles in them. Or maybe noticing how much you love her nipples and commenting on what exactly it is about her nipples that you love. Or maybe if she has this luscious, curvy body, letting her know why you love her curves and how much you love touching them. Something like that that's really going to be specific and tailored just to her is going to help in that moment. The bottom line is this: if she doesn't feel emotionally safe with you, her body won't let her become sexually vulnerable with you in the way that she wants and in the way that you want. So what can you do even more here? This is about building emotional safety through really consistent communication. So whether that's validating her feelings without trying to fix or minimize them, or creating an environment where she can really be vulnerable without fear of criticism. And guys, this isn't just about what you say, it's about your tone, your body language, and whether she genuinely feels appreciated by you. The more of a foundation of trust and understanding and love and support that both of you have in your dynamic and within your relationship, the more capacity you have to take one another to a really, really juicy, crazy, sexy place in your sex life. The third major reason is really about stress and mental overload that might be hijacking her system. So this third reason really combines both chronic stress and mental overstimulation. These are two factors that literally wire a woman's brain far away from sexual desire. So when someone is chronically stressed, their body is going to pump out cortisol. And this is the same for you. So cortisol is what some people consider a stress hormone. And here's the thing about cortisol. When it's elevated, it's going to suppress the production of sex hormones. So her body is basically saying, we are in survival mode right now. Reproduction is not a priority. So think about it. Back in the day when we were out living in the wild, if someone was under an extreme amount of stress, maybe they're running away from tigers or they're worried about where they're going to find food next, that isn't exactly the best environment to put the body in to be like, yeah, let's make babies. Let's have some children and bring them into this world. In a lot of ways, it's kind of a protection mechanism, ultimately for humankind. So unfortunately, now we've gotten ourselves into a state in today's day and age where stress is a really common thing, and oftentimes women's cortisol levels are going to be pumping through the roof because maybe they've decided to take on a high-stress job, or you already have children and that's stressful on top of the job that perhaps she has and all of the family dynamics and all of the things that are unfolding in life. Right? That is going to put a woman into survival mode where reproduction, again, is not a priority. Stress really creates cognitive distractions. So her mind is literally in a state where it cannot focus on pleasure because it's preoccupied with everything else. You know how hard it is to focus on anything when you're stressed about work, right? The same thing happens with sex. It can be really, really hard to quiet those thoughts and that cognitive distraction that's pulling her away to manage the stressful things that are unfolding in her life. This mental load can be really crushing. And when she feels like she has to manage, the household, the kids, the schedules, and then on top of that, you want to be sexually available, her brain might not be able to make that switch. There's also something called decision fatigue. So when our brains are overloaded with decisions all day long, we lose the capacity for complex responses like sexual arousal. And modern life is basically decision overload, right? Constant notifications, choices, stimulation. And then there's also this element of being touched out. So this is especially if you are living in a home where you have kids and they're all day climbing on her, grabbing her, needing constantly to be available physically. As a mother, she can develop actually an aversion to any additional physical contact or even intimate contact with you. Basically, there's a lot going on here. So what can you do? If you think that this is something that your woman might be experiencing, and this might be why sex isn't really on the table for you right now, actively work to reduce her stress load. This means taking genuine responsibility for household stuff. So something that might be helpful here is instead of just sporadically helping out around the house of like, oh, I'll get the laundry this time, or oh, I'll do it this time, actually take on a full load of saying, hey, laundry's my responsibility. I know that doesn't sound like the sexiest thing, but I can't tell you enough times when a woman has said the sexiest thing that he does is when he unloads that dishwasher, right? Like if you are taking the responsibility where dishes are my thing and I'm going to do them, that then enables her to fully and completely remove that from her brain. So whether you're deciding like I sporadically help out with all of these different things, the reason why that might not actually be effective for you is because it's still a swimming in the back of her head and she doesn't know that she can put that to rest permanently. So it's like she's juggling these balls and she's still juggling the balls even though sometimes you help out with the balls. They're still in her hands. So taking some of that away from her permanently. Also consider creating space for her to mentally decompress before inviting in sexual interaction. So maybe this means that you decide that you're going to take over the bedtime routine with the kids, or you're going to give her time to transition from her daily chaos into an intimate connection. So perhaps if you have kids saying, hey, I'm going to do bedtime routines, and why don't you go have some time with yourself? And then after you finish bedtime routine, going into the room and then inviting in a sexual energy. It can be kind of hard to sit in the space of perhaps putting kids to bed or finishing the dishes and inviting in a sexual energy when we're totally in a different state of mind and being. That can be a little jarring for this system. So creating that space to actually release some of the demands of life. The goal here is really to help her nervous system actually reset and meet yours. Men, you have such a gift. You have the capacity to flip some of these switches more quickly than we do. And that is so, so powerful. And I wish that we had it. But this is a way for you to really use your superpowers and your capacity to take action and create solutions and support her nervous system to meet yours so that you both can enjoy sex really, really wonderfully. These last two reasons why she might not want to be having sex with you are kind of hard to hear. But I want you to know them because they're possibly what's unfolding here. And the more that you understand what's going on, the more you can take action and make decisions for yourself. The fourth reason is she is protecting what she values. You might be thinking immediately, what do you even mean by that? And this is something that I think when a lot of men hear it, they have the thought to themselves, what in the world is going through a woman's mind? And I understand. But here we are. So sometimes a woman will hold back sexually precisely because she is attracted to you and sees long-term potential. So this reason is really specific and tailored to if you're in a dynamic where maybe you've been dating for a little bit and you're wanting to have sex for the first time, or you're wanting to be intimate and she's holding back, but you're feeling like you like each other. This is going to sound really counterintuitive, but women often make guys that they really like wait longer than guys they just want to hook up with. If she sees you as relationship material, she might deliberately slow down the physical stuff to see what your character is like. She's not playing games, she's protecting her heart, and she wants to make sure that you're worth the investment. Some women have learned that moving too fast sexually can mess up their ability to properly evaluate whether a guy is actually good for them long term. So if she's making you wait, it might actually mean that she values you more, not less. I think oftentimes what happens in a relationship dynamic is that a woman sets the pace sexually and a man sets the pace in terms of commitment. So there is an element of feeling like I need to drive or slow down the speed of our sexual dynamic. The key here is to really learn to read the difference. So if a woman is pulling away from you entirely, like she's avoiding your calls, she might seem annoyed by your presence, or she's not wanting to go on more dates with you as energetically as you are, take notice of that. That is loss of attraction. On the flip side, if she is setting boundaries around sex while still wanting to spend more time with you, still being affectionate in other ways, still engaging with you emotionally, that's likely her protecting what she values. So what can you do in this situation? If you're in a dating space and you're wondering, why doesn't she want to sleep with me? But I think that she likes me. If it's that loss of attraction, the answer is to either become more attractive, so working on yourself, pursuing your goals, getting in shape, developing interesting hobbies, living your life, or evaluating if this is someone that you want to continue to put time and investment into, because no one wants to pursue someone that isn't interested in them. Now, if she's setting boundaries because she values you and you're interested in pursuing something with her, respect those boundaries and prove through your actions that you are worth her investment. The additional irony here is that if she is setting these boundaries with you because she's interested in you and you agree to them, you're like, hey, I totally respect that that is where you are and I don't want to rush anything. She's probably going to want to sleep with you sooner. So just keeping that in mind. And either way, the answer here really isn't to pressure or pursue harder. It's to become a better man. It's to become more of the man that you already are. Okay, now the fifth and final reason, and this is probably the hardest one to hear. You have stopped being the man that she fell in love with. And this is the opposite of the fourth reason in the sense that this is really for those of you that are in a long-term relationship, or if you've been with someone for a while and you're wondering, where has the sex gone? And I speak to this, and I just want you to know that I'm sharing this from a place of wanting you to really succeed, not to tear you down. Because sometimes she is not interested in sex because the dynamic between you has shifted from where you first got together. So think back to when you first met her. You were probably crushing it in some area of your life. Maybe you were hitting the gym regularly, you were chasing big goals at work, or you just had this energy about you that showed that you were going places and you were taking her with you. You had probably your own things going on, your own interests, your own sense of purpose that existed outside of the relationship. And very likely you were showing up with her in an intentional, different kind of way. Just as, women have the fault of pulling on their sweatpants and becoming little gremlins at home once they get into a relationship, the same is likely true for you. The version of you in the beginning was truly magnetic, yeah? You weren't sitting around wondering if she was attracted to you. You were too busy being the kind of man who is naturally attractive. You had what I like to call and what people call that main character energy in your life. Here's what happens in a lot of relationships, and it's totally understandable. Life gets comfortable. You achieve some of your goals, you settle into routines, and without really realizing it, you might start coasting a bit. Those gym sessions become less frequent, the big dreams get put on the back burner, and your identity starts revolving more around the relationship than your personal mission. This isn't about blame. This is about understanding that women are wired to be attracted to men who are actively growing and pursuing something meaningful. And I think that you can understand that and relate to that as well. It's not that she's necessarily being shallow or demanding. It's that stagnation isn't sexy to anyone, including you. And I'll make a note here that maybe she's doing some of this herself. She might become stagnant in the relationship. She might have gotten too comfortable herself, and that doesn't feel good. Maybe she doesn't feel good about herself as a result of that, and thus a new cycle is forming where she doesn't want to have sex because she doesn't feel good about herself. So think about it this way. Are you still excited about your own life? Are you still working towards things that matter to you? And are you still that guy who has those interesting stories to tell when you come home from work? If you have lost that spark for your own life, it's going to affect how she sees and responds to you. The good news here is that this is completely within your control, okay? You don't need to become someone different. You need to reconnect with the best version of yourself that's really always been there. So what can you do? Start investing in yourself again, like you did when you were single and dating. Hit the gym, not because you have to, but because it makes you feel powerful. Pursue goals that excite you, not just because they might impress her, but because achieving things matters to you. Rediscover hobbies or find new interests that make you interesting to yourself first. When you're genuinely excited about your own life again, that energy gets to become magnetic to everyone around you, especially her. So guys, here's what I want you to take away from this. When she doesn't want sex, it's almost never a personal rejection of you as a person. It's usually her body and brain responding logically to circumstances that make sexual desire difficult or impossible. The good news that we've talked about is that almost all of these factors are flexible when you understand what's really going on. So instead of getting frustrated or taking it personally, you can actually do something about it. Focus on making her pleasure a priority, create more of that emotional safety in your relationship, reduce her stress load, improve your sexual technique, and honestly evaluate whether you've become less attractive or whether she's actually showing you respect by setting boundaries if this is a new relationship. And again, checking in with yourself. What parts of myself have I lost along the way? Or what parts of myself, what experiences, what aspects of who I am as a person can I rekindle or bring back to life? Remember, you're not trying to manipulate her into wanting sex. You're creating the conditions where her natural desire can emerge. There's a huge difference between these two approaches. The bottom line is this: that crazy, hot, steamy sex and strong desire don't just poof happen. They're created by men who understand women's sexuality and who are willing to put in the work to become better lovers and better partners. If this episode has resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend who might need to hear this message. And if you have any questions about your specific situation, head over to thenakedconnection.com/question and make sure to submit them. This is Kirsten, and until next time, let's get some. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of The Naked Connection. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss another episode. Trust me on this, your sex life and that special someone in your life will thank you for it. And if you really love the show, please take a moment and leave a 5-star review or a written review and let me know what you think. It would mean so much to me and this show. Until next time, happy connecting.